G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Andy Miller from Heaps Normal, based in Canberra, Australia. Thanks for your time today, Andy.
It's a pleasure.
Let's start with how we know each other. So Yuki and Claire are also based in Canberra, who I've been doing some work with in the last 6 months to help them get their online hair color product business launched in November, which I'll never have to use. But and Yuki said he ran into you at the accelerator event that you guys are both have been involved with.
Yeah, we've both been involved with StartMate, which is a really cool accelerator that we had the pleasure of being involved in October last year.
Great. Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
So Heaps Normal is a non-alcoholic beer company. We're independent and we are changing drinking culture. And we make money by selling delicious, refreshing, non-alcoholic beer.
Love it, and it's a very fast-growing category. I've certainly jumped on that wagon. I think in the last 2 years, you started to see the emergence of a lot of the big players like Heineken and Asahi, etc., come out with a 0%. It's such an important category these days. I think I read somewhere recently that current gen or millennials or Gen Zs, Gen Ys, are drinking about 23% less alcohol than their parents at their age.
Yeah, 100%. This is the generation with the least alcohol consumption of any generation before it, which is, like you said, this Generation Z coming forward now, who are just in their early 20s or turning 18.
Yeah, it's a big movement, and all the big outlets like Dan Murphy's are all reporting the non-alcoholic space is just booming. It's massive. You got Liar's Spirits as well. I think they were valued at 180 million 2 years after launch.
They're huge.
Yeah,
been a huge one. Liars have, I think, gone global from the beginning, and they're a really inspiring case study, I think, especially for the non-alc category as a broader.
Yeah, definitely. And Seedlip as well. They got snapped up by Diageo, I think, 18 months ago. So it's all good and great for our health as well. I love your website, Normal July. I was looking at it this morning, and Too Good to Be Wasted. I thought you've got not just a great looking brand and website, the packaging is excellent, but I love some of your strap lines and the copy that you use as well.
Yeah, we've put a lot of energy into just making sure that as a non-alc beer company, we're not just focused on people who are abstaining or who identify as sober. We all enjoy a beer ourselves occasionally, and we want to make sure that we're inclusive of everybody, regardless of their lifestyle choices. For us, it's more about reflecting on what works for you, and if it works for you, then we'll celebrate it.
Yeah, totally agree. And how did you start out?
Pete, Benny and I met over a few beers, and we got talking, and we realized that we all wanted to reduce our alcohol consumption first and foremost. But we also realized as part of that conversation that we all wanted to do that for very different reasons and in different measures. And then thirdly, we realized that there were heaps of other people out there just like us who each had their own reasons for wanting to cut back. So when we did a bit of investigation, around, what would we drink when we're not drinking, there wasn't a whole lot out there at the time for people who, really enjoy, a traditional, if you can call it that. I guess it's not too early to call craft beer traditional, but a mainstream, accessible craft beer that's just refreshing and tastes like a beer. There wasn't really anything out there at that point that we would choose to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And so we set about creating that and brewing something. We're brewing the Quiet XPA, which is now our product that we've got in market.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I tasted one Monday night, as I said. A mate brought a 4-pack over, and yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Cheers.
And yeah, the other big players obviously moving into this market now, as I mentioned before we hit record, is Guinness now have a 0% as well, which is just phenomenal. And I'm a big fan of the Brewdog 0 or 0.5s as well.
Yeah, Brewdog are killing it. They've obviously been one of the global leaders in non-alc, at least from our point of view. They've got a dedicated non-alc facility, and brewing everything from stouts to sours and pale ales. So yeah, they were a real early benchmark in the sector globally, and we were definitely inspired by their offering early on.
Yeah. And what year did you start, and how old were you when you made the jump?
I was 39 in 2020, and we launched on the last day of Dry July in 2020, which was not intentional and not meant to be as ironic as it sounds.
Yep. Great. And what were you doing before starting up Heaps Normal?
Before Heaps Normal, I was consulting in brand strategy for a range of small to medium businesses, including a couple of beer companies. And prior to that, spent about 15 to 20 years, 15 to 20 years as of today, in marketing and advertising and strategy. A lot of my work was in digital strategy early on, and spent some time in China and Australia. More, I guess, recently in that career, I spent 3 years with Young Henry's heading up their marketing team through a period of rapid growth for them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, then sort of moved to Canberra and started a different chapter of life.
Yeah, for the audience, Young Henry's is a great brewery and distillery now in Sydney. Big fan.
100%. Yeah, down in Newtown there.
Now, I've got to ask, I'm sure the audience will want to know, how the fuck do you get the alcohol out of a beer but still make it taste like beer?
Yeah, it's a good question. Traditionally, non-alc beer producers would brew a full-strength beer and then remove the alcohol either by filtering it out or boiling it off. And we've taken a totally different approach. We developed our own approach, which is based on a biological method where there's never any need to remove the alcohol because there's never more than a trace amount in the beer.
Yep.
So we use a special yeast, and it undergoes a micro fermentation. So you still get those flavors that are associated with a fermentation, but it never goes above 0.5, and in our case, for our beer, it never goes above 0.4% alcohol. And so therefore, we don't need to remove any alcohol. And we think that also means that, we're not removing a lot of the flavor as well in that process.
You can definitely tell the difference when you taste something like Carlton Zero, which is just shit. There's a couple of other 0% out there, which is like, it's worse than drinking light beer, which is, I've always felt you're just drinking watery beer, really. Yeah,
well, I think the technology around yeast in particular, but also just some of these processes in beer production, particularly light beer and non-alc beer, have come a long way in the last few years. So yeah, we're all the beneficiaries of that.
Do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business?
Yeah, I mean, this year alone, since January, we've grown by volume and revenue almost 200%.
Wow.
Since January, between January and the end of July, it's the end of financial year. And to date, at the moment, we have approximately 1,500 customers nationally, and we've already started to export to Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, New Zealand.
Great. Yeah, that's fantastic. Are you in any of the big chains like Dan Murphy's or any of those ones?
Yeah, we did start our business quite intentionally distributing through independent channels for a range of reasons. One of the main ones being that we wanted to support independent businesses like ours from the get-go and build our business alongside those like-minded partners. But that said, we're also pretty excited to have gone live in Dan Murphy's nationally as of July.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I think to give you a bit of an indication of how that's going as well, we were the fastest moving craft beer SKU in Dan Murphy's across the board in the week that we launched.
That's alcoholic and non-alcoholic?
Alcoholic and non-alcoholic craft beers.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well done.
Cheers.
And what about the full-time equivalent? So it was the three of you start full-time in this, and what number of FTE up to now?
Yeah, the three of us, working 8 days a week in it, as you can imagine, with most startups in the beginning. Yeah. Yep. And there's four founders. Geordie Smith is the fourth founder, who's a pro surfer, usually based in LA, but he's obviously got his hands full and usually just got his eyes on the swell. So the three of us are sort of the main full-time founders that have been growing the business, and we're now a team of 10, soon to be 11 later this month, and still growing the team really quickly.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
That's a really interesting question. I reflected on this recently, and I think for me, success is not wanting to be anywhere else. And so for us, I think the day that we were able to open the doors, if you like, the metaphorical doors to Heaps Normal, and start selling our own products that we were proud to stand behind, and that was making a difference in the world at the same time. That's the sort of the success measure that matters most to me.
Yeah. Well, that was the next question. What does success look like to you? And I think that's a great way you summed it up. You don't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah. And I think I speak for Benny and Pete as well. We pinch ourselves every day that we have the opportunity to get out of bed and, create a product that we really enjoy, genuinely enjoy ourselves, and, a business that has the opportunity to have a positive impact on Australian drinking culture.
And number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business? As I said, love the brand, but you've obviously got a background in this area, and it's so important in sales and marketing.
It's a good question, actually. It sounds really maybe simplistic, but I think it comes back to doing something that you genuinely believe in, and if you that way, it's really easy to market something that you genuinely believe in. I think traditionally speaking, a lot of marketing, has carried with it a stigma of being bullshit, and so therefore people are quite skeptical of marketing. But for us, we see marketing as an opportunity to tell authentic stories that are real, that are just the way that we see the world and the difference that the impact that we want to have on that world. And then it's all about, creating fun experiences for your audience, and being really clear about who that audience is, because the clearer you are on who your audience is and what makes them tick, what they call fun, then the better you're going to be at connecting with them.
Yeah, I can see that when I read through the copy, plus on your can. It did resonate with me that there's a lot of authenticity there right behind what you guys are doing. And you're going for B Corp status at the moment?
Yeah, we've just completed the assessment recently, and we're in line to complete that process in the next 6 months or so.
Yep.
And also recently certified as 1% for the planet.
Great.
So we actually, as part of, it's not really a big, the purpose of it isn't really as a marketing exercise for us, but we've really put a lot of thought into how we can contribute back to the community as a business, which is, I think, just something that should be normal for all businesses.
Yeah.
So we contribute 2% of all of our revenue.
Yep.
And have done since day one of trading, since the first carton of beer was sold, to purposeful projects, and we break that up into 1% for the planet and 1% for the people.
Great, love it. And back on the B Corp, have you found that an arduous process to go through? We've had 6 or 7 on that are actually B Corps at the moment, but I forgot to ask them what it's like doing all the paperwork.
Yeah, it's full on. I think I spoke to somebody, a consultant in the B Corp space recently, and she passed on that a lot of the reason for the backlog and the waiting period for becoming a B Corp is because so many businesses start the process and submit the assessment and then just don't go through with it.
Right.
And I think she said, the reason for that is because it's such a commitment. And I think some people might sort of start the process thinking it's a quick win and a nice little kind of notch on the belt, but you really have to be committed to it, and it has to be a genuine commitment, to warrant the amount of time that it requires.
Yeah, definitely. How did you fund your business?
So we all kicked in a bit of cash at the beginning to get ourselves started and to prove, that there was a demand for this product. And we were lucky enough for Geordie to kick in a little bit extra to get the business off the ground. Then we, again, were lucky enough to be accepted into the competitive accelerator called StartMate, which is a 12-week accelerator program where it really stretches your ambitions as a business owner, as a founder, and what you should expect out of yourself and out of your business in a short period of time. And out of the back of that, we had a list of people, of investors, angel investors mostly, who were really keen to back us and get behind us. So we did a raise of $1.3 million in October last year, and that has really helped us, fund the growth of the team and of our production volume over that period.
Right. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Today, yeah, that's an interesting question. I think so. It certainly is a lot more competitive today, even only a short, 12 months since we launched. But there were a lot of entrants into the market in the few months following us. So yeah, I think it is a different landscape. I know that's not a direct answer to your question. I'd say, yeah, we'd still have a crack, but it would be a lot harder launching now than it was back then.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Taking on staff.
Yeah.
It's one thing, I think, taking the leap as a founder and, working without a salary for 6, 12 months, maybe more. But it's a whole other thing committing to somebody else's livelihood and to, having to pay those salaries every month. And I think more importantly than the money as well, it's also, we take it really seriously around supporting our team and making sure that they're feeling good and feeling fulfilled in their work lives and personally, which is probably something that I hadn't anticipated quite so much as being that role of being a business owner.
Yeah. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Discipline around, how you spend your time and how specifically how I spend my time and how we as business owners and founders spend our time. I think there's a million things that you can do. You don't need to think about creating a list of things to do in order to be busy. You wake up in the morning, you open your laptop, and there are several days worth of work in front of you.
Yep.
But if you operate like that, I've found through personal experience, you generally don't get the most important things done. So that's the biggest learning for us.
Yeah, that saying, if everything's a priority, nothing is. Yeah. What have you enjoyed least about managing the fast growth?
Some of the sorry.
It's all right.
I genuinely, this is going to sound like a cop out, but there are plenty of things that I don't like, that I don't enjoy. There's things that I enjoy a lot less than other things. But somebody at StartMate called out really early on in our journey there that you can't think as a founder, it's going to be fun when. It's going to be fun once we've raised money, then we don't have to worry about that. It's going to be fun once, we've got our product in market, because then we'll have something to sell. If you're constantly looking forward at this, hypothetical point in the future where things are going to change and they're going to become easier, and then, things are going to be great, then you get there and it's not as fun or as easy as you anticipated. And so then you end up never really feeling fulfilled or being happy. And so I've taken that to heart and try to enjoy genuinely. It sounds like I feel like such a preacher, but genuinely try and enjoy every kind of moment, even the things that I'm not good at or that, are a bit boring or a bit difficult, because there's always a silver lining. It's an opportunity to learn something that I'm not, particularly good at yet, or whatever. There's always a silver lining and a benefit if you really look for it.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
The opportunity to have an impact on people's lives, from our team to the community of people that write to us almost daily, to kind of let us know about their own personal stories. It's just so fulfilling, and it's, I feel grateful to have that opportunity to do something, that contributes back to our community.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I think the biggest mindset shift has been going from early days where, we were doing everything as founders, and it was kind of fun. We'd go out and see if we could bring on some new customers and make calls, selling our beer to different venues around the country. And that mindset shift from that to where we are now, which is, really needing to think more about how we spend our time, and rather than sort of working in the business, it's working on it and thinking about, how we can plan, longer term, and how we can inspire and motivate our employees and our customers and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Out of interest, did you get much, what was the traction like, particularly early on? Because you said you're now stocked in 1,500. I mean, Dan Murphy's got another 350 or so stores in there. So you're going to be cracking over 2,000 outlets pretty soon. Did you get much resistance early on?
Oh, yeah. There's always been the naysayers. And I think for us, that was the sign that we were launching at the right time. It was the fact that there were just not everybody, but there were a few people who didn't believe and who thought it wouldn't work. And there's always that balance, right? You've got to work out whether, you take on that, you're on an idea that's not going to work, and you need to listen. You need to work out, where you sit on that, whether that's the case or whether you need to push through. Yeah. And, the fact that it was, just a handful of people that didn't believe, who, ask, what's the point of non-alcoholic beer? Or I make money from selling booze at my venue. Like, why the hell would I give you guys, why the hell would I put non-alcoholic beer on the menu? That was, but I think the positive outcome on that is that that number of people is dramatically reduced over even the time that we've been in market.
I think, was it last month or in July. It might have been the first non-alcoholic bar opened in Melbourne, which I'm sure
Yeah,
you guys.
Brunswick Aces. We're in the car down there. Yeah, really great dudes, and they've done a really great job. And I think it's a sign of the times. I think that somebody would think to open a dedicated non-alcoholic bar.
Yeah. What is the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Resilience.
Yep. That's totally true.
I think it was there was a Guardian article recently, which I'm happy to dig up and share with you if you're interested. But it was one of the lines in that article just really hit home for me, and that was that the ability to oh my God, I'm going to butcher it now. The ability to cope with minor discomfort is a superpower.
I like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Were they just talking about small business owners or people in general?
I think all of the above.
Yeah.
I think, that minor discomfort and the ability to press forward when you're feeling a little bit outside your comfort zone, or you're doing something that's really a bit boring, or whatever it is. Like, I think that minor discomfort it's so common, I think, is what they're trying to get at, that you can push forward, push through that, then you'll have an advantage over a lot of other people.
Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course and add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
We've always tried to hire good people when we find them, regardless of whether we feel like we're ready for that.
Good strategy.
For the role.
Yeah.
And then we find the role that is best for them in our organization at that particular point in time. Mm-hmm. And I think the old overused adage of hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, don't do the reverse.
is good advice in our experience. I don't know that we've always managed to adhere to that advice, but I think you've got to always give yourself room to flex. And I think we've flexed on all of the rules that we set ourselves, but the ones that we found that worked are hire slow, fire fast, and thankfully we haven't had to fire anybody.
Yep.
And the other one is get hire good people when they come along.
Yeah. And what are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
It's something that feel like I've learned the hard way. We put so much energy into creating great benefits for our team and incentives, like, giving an extra week of paid annual leave every year, having, access to professional services, that we fund, having a flexible and remote work environment, all of these sorts of things, and heaps more as well. But that none of that stuff matters if you don't actually do the little basic things right, like have somebody's contract in place, have a position description drafted that's really clear,
or even have you'd be surprised, the businesses I step into to help out, like 20 or 30 team members, I go, right, where's your org chart? Where's your job description? And they go, what are they?
Yeah, that's right. And I think it feels boring and unnecessary when you're trying to grow a business and you think, look, everyone will understand. They just want to get in and they just want to get working, and we just need to start selling beer, or we need to, come up with a marketing plan. The position description. Everyone knows what a marketing manager does, right? So, but it's not that simple. And I think it's easy to forget when you're trying to move fast. And I think doing those simple things right, and making sure you get them right first is the thing. They're the things that we've found make or break work culture and the happiness of your team, because if they feel, it's about setting the expectations. And if you get those things right, then the expectations are clear and they know themselves if they're doing a good job or they need to improve. And all of those conversations around that become a whole lot easier and less confrontational, because you just sit down and most people are very reasonable. And you say, hey, like, how do you think you're going? And they're like, oh, look, I think I could improve here, and I'm killing it over here. And
the job descriptions serve a few purposes. One's everyone knows who's responsible for what, but also clearly defines to each person what excellence looks like in their corner, so they can feel proud about the value they're contributing and the work they're doing. Just back to that point you made about the extra week annual leave. I think that is an absolute perler. I'm a big advocate for that. There's not many business owners that are brave enough to do it, give people 5 weeks annual leave. The Americans listening will probably be, cringing at that, because I think they only get 2 weeks leave a year. But,
right.
But I think it's huge from a cultural and just even a productivity point of view, because for the business, if it's high perceived value to the team member, and it's a low economic cost, in my opinion, anyway, for the business to give an extra week's leave, but they get a lot more value out of that extra week. And I think they're going to, they'll make up that time with their energy and enthusiasm over the year.
100%. I think the other really important one just to call out, which is something that we put a lot of thought into, is gender equality. And I think there's been a lot of it in the media recently around, how women, are kind of shortchanged, I guess, in their careers in a range of different ways. And one of them is, I think, the obvious one, those who choose to have kids or take maternity leave are automatically, penalized in their careers, even unintentionally. So we've tried to combat that by having a pretty generous carers leave, which includes both partners,
right,
and 12 weeks paid parental leave, and you get that from day one. So you don't have to serve 12 months before you get it, and everyone has access to it. So I guess just having been in that situation before and having worked for organizations where you don't get anything except the government allowed 2 weeks minimum wage, it seems like a no-brainer that all organizations, I think, these days should be committing to.
Yeah, I think it's Sweden that has something like 54 weeks full paid paternity and maternity leave. You can choose which parent or split it, etc. Clearly, one of the reasons I think why they're usually top of the happiest countries in the world. But I think that's it's just such an archaic way of doing business and thinking, and it's great to see that you guys are breaking that mold. It's funny, this morning, my weekly leadership email I send, I was actually commented on something around this, which is more around diversity, gender diversity in management and the board. And I dug up some articles on it. I'll just quickly read out a couple of quick stats from this ABC article I found and a McKinsey report. A female CEO increased market value by 5%, which is nearly 80 million to an average ASX 200 company. Companies in the top quartile for gender diversity on executive teams were 21% more likely to outperform on profitability and 27% more likely to have superior value creation. So, they're underrepresented, not just underpaid in the workplace, but underrepresented, particularly in more senior ranks. And the studies show that they do a shit ton better job than us blokes a lot of the time. And it's just good to have obviously different opinions and backgrounds and voices in those senior meetings.
100%. I think we've acknowledged we've been really keen to acknowledge outwardly our challenges from day one as a business, and one of those that we've always acknowledged is that we launched with 4 white dudes as founders. And while we can't change that, we can't change that the founding group and how we came together, we've focused our energies on what we can change, and we've over the first 12 months managed to get so far anyway, and we're not finished, to 40% of our team being women, and a good proportion of those are in senior positions within the team. And yeah, we've got some other exciting stuff that we're hoping to announce in the next few months.
Yeah, great. Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
What kind of balance?
It's an open question for a reason.
Well, I think maybe we just touched on it there. We something I didn't mention, which I'd like to, is that the reason that we want balance, and if you look at balance as diversity in our team, is not to tick some hypothetical box. It's to genuinely create an organization that makes stronger decisions by considering things from different angles and having different points of view and different lived experiences that are factored into the discussions that we have as a team and the decisions that we make. So that's how we view balance.
Yep. How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
In myself.
Or do you have much of a mantra within the business to develop the team professionally? Courses, books, podcasts, conferences, etc., training?
Yeah, definitely. We spend a lot of energy with our team. We have one-on-one meetings every single week.
Yep. Great.
With them to ensure that things aren't snowballing and becoming huge issues, and we're sort of in touch with how they're feeling and how they're performing in their role. I think Matt Allen, who's one of our shareholders and a mentor and investor, says about that that misalignment creates friction, and friction starts fires. And so doing one-on-ones really well is really about creating alignment.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of one-on-ones. They're one of the most powerful tools that managers have. Yeah, absolutely. Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Heaps. And I don't believe that anyone is self-made, if you can call it that. I think anyone who thinks that they've done it all themselves isn't recognizing the people along the way that have made it happen and contributed, and maybe some of the privilege as well that they've been afforded. And we are so lucky. I guess StartMate was a big contributor to that mentor group, and many of those mentors have become shareholders. I think Michael Batko, who's the CEO of StartMate, is just such a gun and has changed the way that we think about productivity in our business and how we communicate our vision and manage our team. Matt Allen, who I mentioned, Kate Morris from Adore Beauty.
Spoken to Kate. Yep.
Yeah, Jadon Comerford, who's the founder of Unified Music Group. And yeah, there's probably too many to list, but we're really grateful for the generosity of that mentor group.
Then do you have a board of directors or advisors?
Our advisors are in the same breath as talking about mentors. Our advisors certainly are our shareholders, and we have, I think there's 26 of them, which was unintentional, but has been amazing because they're all super engaged, super generous with their time, and they're all strategic investors and strategic shareholders. So they're all involved in just the right amount. They give us the space to run the business, but they're always there and they're always willing to add value where they can.
All right, Andy, one of our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Yeah, I think it's actually being kind to yourself and not being too hard on yourself in terms of productivity or achieving things overnight. I think the biggest impact and that we've had, and the things that have been the thing that I should say, the things that have been the most impactful for us have been things that we've chipped away at over time and have been the culmination of incremental improvement daily. And I think you just need to not be too hard on yourself as a small business owner. There's, like we said earlier in the convo, there's a million things that you could do every single day, and there's only so many hours in the day. So I think being really critical about, what you put on your list to do, but then also being kind to yourself and allowing yourself to not achieve everything that you might want to achieve in a single day.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
It's really hard to pick one.
You can reel off a few if you want. Yeah.
Let me trigger my memory.
Looking through your Audible list now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. James Kerr's Legacy is one that I read recently, which is all about the All Blacks and their team culture. That was really eye-opening and inspiring to read how they think about building team culture and the role of values in a team. And it sounds so cliche, but you read it and you understand immediately the impact that kind of thinking can have on a business, and particularly on a small business. Decoded, which is, I think, a really great summary of some really deep thinking. Like if you like thinking fast, thinking slow, but you never could quite chew through that book, it's very dry, then Decoded is a really great way of blending the psychology of marketing and behavioral psychology with actionable insights that you get out of that. And an interesting one, actually, maybe not necessarily a business book, but one called Everyday Ubuntu.
Right.
Which is Ubuntu is this South African concept, a way of thinking that says, I am because you are. And it's all about recognizing that, I can only do my job because you do your job and you're in your role. Or as I think the Chicago Bull coach, Phil Jackson.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a big advocate and used it in his management of the team. And I discovered it through the Michael Jordan documentary.
Of course, that was a great
full disclosure. But was so interested in it that I went and did my own research on it after that, and just became really fascinated with it.
Back on Decoded, that's psychology. Have you read Influence by Robert Cialdini? It's on consumer psychology.
No, I haven't.
It's a great book.
Similar, is it?
Yeah, I'll email a link through to you after this. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that'd be great.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Mid-flight brawl, does that count? No, it's that's the one I listen to for entertainment. But I find the guests on Funny Business podcast really, really great. They talk to a lot of founders and athletes as well, people who are thinking really differently about business. So that's a great one. And I think Sweathead, Mark Pollard's podcast, really, it's a great deep dive into strategy.
Yep.
And I think it's probably a really popular one for lots of your listeners, but Masters of Scale with Reid Hoffman. I dip in and out of that one every now and again.
Reid Hoffman, he was one of the founders of LinkedIn, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
A tool?
Yep.
Find a good CRM and invest in it early.
Good call. What do you guys use?
We use HubSpot. It's been pretty good.
Yep, I've heard HubSpot and Zendesk are good. Yeah. All right, Andy, final and my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
document everything.
Cool.
I think when you're building a business and you're going really quickly, it feels like a bit of a chore, and you feel like, oh, I'll go back and I'll document that later. But it's never the same. And I think having that record of not only what you did, but how you were thinking and what you were thinking and what your ambitions were and how you saw things playing out at the time. It's so valuable to reflect on that, because it's quite, we're really good at getting to the point in the future and then going like, oh yeah, I knew it was going to turn out this way, or I knew that was going to happen. But if look, comparing what your ambitions are or how you see things playing out, and writing it down, and then doing the same exercise, at some point in the future, is so valuable.
Great. Thanks very much for your time today, Andy. I think the audience get a lot of value out of what you shared with us, your journey. Congratulations to the 4 founders and the wider team. That's phenomenal growth in your first, what's that now, officially 17 months you've been going? No, 14. You're right. 14
months. Yeah.
There we go.
No, it's a great pleasure. Thanks so much for your time.
No, thank you.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.